Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Because this other disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard. However, Peter stood outside near the gate. Then the other disciple, the one who knew the high priest, came out and spoke to the woman stationed at the gate, and she brought Peter in. The servant woman stationed at the gate asked Peter, "Aren't you one of this man's disciples?"
I'm not.
The servants and the guards had made a fire because it was cold. They were standing around, warming themselves. Peter joined them there, standing by the fire, and he also warmed himself. As Simon Peter was standing with the guards, they asked, "Aren't you one of his disciples?"
I'm not.
A servant of the high priest, a relative of the one whose ear Peter had cut off, said to him, "Didn't I see you in the garden with him?"
No.
Peter denied it again, and immediately a rooster crowed.
Who has believed what we have heard? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering and acquainted with infirmity, and as one from whom others hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him of no account. Surely he had borne our infirmities and carried our diseases, yet we accounted him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole, and by his bruises we are healed. As all like sheep have gone astray, we have all turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By a perversion of justice he was taken away. Who could have imagined his future? For he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people. They made his grave with the wicked and his tomb with the rich, although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him with affliction. When you make his life an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring and shall prolong his days. Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper. Out of his anguish he shall find satisfaction through his knowledge. The righteous one, my servant, shall make many righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out himself to death and was numbered with the transgressors, yet he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors.
2 others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing.
One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man
has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. And Jesus replied, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with two others, one on either side, with Jesus between them. Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home.
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
I'm so thirsty, I can feel it, burning through the furthest corners of my soul. Deep desire, I can't describe this. A nameless urge that drives me somewhere, though I don't know where to go. Seems I've heard about a river from someone who's been, and they tell me once you reach it, you will never thirst again. So I have to find the river. Somehow my life depends on the river. Holy river, other waters I've been drinking, but they always leave me empty like before. Satisfaction is all I'm asking. Could I really be this thirsty if there weren't something more? And I've heard about a river from someone who's been, and they tell me once you reach it, you will never thirst again. So I have to find the river. Somehow my life depends on the river. Holy river, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I'm on the shore now of the wildest river, and I kneel and beg for mercy from the sky. But no one answers. I gotta take my chances, because something deep inside me's crying, this is why you are alive. And so I plunge into the river with all I am, praying this will be the river where I never thirst again. I'm abandoned to the river. Somehow my life depends on the river. A holy river. I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. Oh, I am thirsty.
When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and
Darkness had fallen over the land. The lingering taste of wine mixed with vinegar was still in his mouth. The sound of the hammer violently pounding against the nails in his hands and in his feet had subsided. The soldiers had already cast their lots for his clothing, dividing his garments among themselves. The insults and the jeers of some of the onlookers were now faint in his ears, and he had welcomed the criminal beside him into paradise. The time had come. Excruciating pain was radiating through his body. Agony was overwhelming his organs' basic functions. His vitality was waning, seeping away from him. Time seemed to have stood still as he was breathing his final breaths. It was time. And then he said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." What a proclamation. What a witness. Obedience and trust were the distinguishing marks of Jesus' life and ministry. He lived his life in obedience to the one who sent him. Repeatedly throughout his ministry, we hear him telling those who question him that by myself I can do nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just, for I seek not to please myself, but the one who sent me. At other times, he told them, "For I do not speak on my own, but only what my Father who sent me communicated to me is what I have spoken." Jesus lived in complete obedience to God. He also lived his life in full trust to God. Once, when he was questioned by his disciples about what he would eat, he told them, "My food is to do the will of the one who sent me and to finish his work." Jesus trusted God to care and to provide for him, even as he did the will of God. Another time he told them, "I have much to say to you, but he who sent me is true, and I declare to the world what I have heard from him." Jesus trusted that God is true, and whatever God says, God will honor. It is not strange then, nor is it far-fetched or even surprising that at his final hour, Jesus was willing to commit his spirit to God. What he did throughout his entire life and ministry prepared him and enabled him so that even in the agony of death, he was able to say willingly, Here is my spirit. As I have obeyed and trusted you in life, so in this moment I obey and trust you the same. Into your hands I commit my spirit. It was obedience and trust that made it possible for Jesus to commit his life. Today is Good Friday. We have journeyed the way of the cross, and we have come to this pivotal moment. Will we be obedient to lay down ourselves so that God may use us as God wills? Will we trust that God knows what is best for us and will be with us, come what may, even to the end? It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. While the sun's light failed and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying out with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." Having said this, he breathed his last breath.